Steven, I don't know what my fascination is with the Noran sisters, Sultana Noran and Jyoti.
I don't know
Noran.
either, but you're always sending me videos of them.
Well, it's the same video. It came out of nowhere to just show up on my feed and keeps feeding me it. And the crazy thing about it is it's from like 2017. This is 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. 5 years ago.
That's TikTok, Instagram, everything just gets recycled over and over again from years back.
Well, the thing is, oh shit, it's going to play. It's playing in my ear. I just opened it up again. So, Steven, can you play it? Can you play the one from the Instagram real fast, just parts of it? So I don't know what it is about that song, Steven, but it gets me juiced or jazzed. And so I had to send it.
Is that like one of your pumped songs at the gym? You're just listening to that song over and over again?
Well, it's like when we used to listen to Grimes, and then these girls came out of nowhere.
It's a little different, but...
Yeah, it is different than Grimes. I mean, I don't understand Grimes either, and I barely understand... Well, I don't understand the Nuran sisters at all singing. The song is called Bhakta Gauti.
What's it called?
I can say that. I can say that, but that's what it's called, Bhakta Gauti.
Is that how they pronounce it?
Bhakta Gauti. P-A-T-A-K-H-A-G-U-D-D-I. Bhakta Gauti.
Say it one more time.
Bhakta Gauti. You have to say it like that. How else are they supposed to say it? They're going to be like, you dumb Americans saying it. What do you mean, Bhakta Gauti?
Nope.
Bhakta Gauti. Bhakta Gauti. Anyway, I'm fascinated with the song, so I had to look up the lyrics because I wanted to know what they said, and I wanted to try my own rendition of it. You ready? Steven, count me in.
I guess.
Count me in to give me a beat.
3,
give
2,
me
1.
a beat.
3, 2, 1. Go.
Better beat.
3, 2, 1.
Hanamitabandgali, Lata Sudala Bahari.
Sounds like Lion King.
How come it's okay for you to do that, Steven, but it's not okay for me to do Bhakta Gauti?
It's Lion King.
I know, but it's...
Made up animals.
It's not made up. It was stolen, actually. Did you know that Disney stole that?
Here we go.
From it was either a Chinese or a Japanese animation that already existed.
Did they?
Yeah, they copied it. They stole it. It's what Disney does. They're great at stealing. But my new theme music for if I came out to like a fight song to fight Manny Ortiz, it would be the Bhakta Gauti, and these girls would be in my corner singing. Dolly, dolly, dolly. It's good. It's a good song. Oh, it goes Ali, 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 Shafkudakazakadai, Ali, Ali, Shafkudakazali.
Lyrics are great.
I don't know what it says, but I'm pretty sure we can get translated lyrics, Steven. Well, let's try translated lyrics. I know we've got a lot to get to today.
Yep.
We have a lot to get to because we have to catch up on everything. But here's the translation, because it's very important that we get this song right. We got the translation. Bhakta Gauti lyrics translation. Highway. Once again, did it with the speed of... Oh, Jesus. Once again, Dakatov did it with the speed of light. Another Rahman song after all. But then that helps me because a Rahman song keeps getting better. I don't know if this is the explanation of the song or the actual song. Oh, shit. That's the explanation of the song. Okay. I'm going to skip this. I don't want to read it anymore. But anyway, go listen to the backbeat version because it's a really good mix and it sounds really good. I like it. I don't know. It just grabs me, Steven.
Cool.
Speaking of grabbing me, we've got a ton to catch up on today because what you may not have known, I mean, some people said it last week. They're like, why didn't you talk about the baseball playoffs that you were shooting? And the reason is we actually had to record 2 episodes in a row.
Yes.
2 weeks ago because we had a trip coming up to San Diego, which stands for what, Steven?
A whale's vagina.
The whale's vagina.
Yes.
We had a trip scheduled for there, so we knew that when we were in the whale's vagina, we would have no time to make a RAWtalk, so we had to do it beforehand. Steven, what were we doing there, or should we get to that later?
We could start off the show with that. That's fine. I mean, we were there for Canon. We didn't know what we were going for leading up to it. We knew it was a press trip. We knew there was some new gear being announced. Usually it's worthwhile to go to these if we get invited. So even though we don't know what the product's going to be, you still want to go. The hard part was there was so much gear being announced leading up to this that we had to rush to get everything done beforehand. And then coming back home after the San Diego trip was the hard part of trying to edit everything right before the announcement.
Yeah, because what we had is we had the A7R5 had to get done before we went away for the Canon trip, because that was getting announced when we were at the Canon trip.
Correct, and I just finished that, I think the Sunday before we left. We left on Monday morning. I finished it like Sunday afternoon, just got everything done and prepped, and then we also had to work on the Nikon 600mm lens review as well, which we did about a month ago, actually, early October. It was like October 6th or something like that. They came down for about an hour or two. Actually, no, they came down for pretty much the whole day because we had to film the entire hands-on preview. We had to get that prepped too because that was coming out November 2nd. We had to do both RAWtalks along with all the photo news fixes, get everything prepped for that. It was a really crazy 2 or 3 weeks for us.
Well, the difficult
and we couldn't even talk about it.
Right, we couldn't talk about it. And the crazy thing here is Sony has a way of doing something. Canon has a way of doing something when it comes to new gear, and so does Nikon. And it goes a little something like this. No, actually, this is how it goes. It's Sony has come up with this way. Sony used to do all the trips.
Yes.
Sony was the one who pushed press trips on everything, and then it got too overwhelming because they started promoting. We started to go to trips for things like a 24mm lens.
Exactly. We go for like 4 days to California. It's like, is this really needed?
Yeah, exactly. Worthless.
Yeah.
But over the pandemic, obviously there were no trips, and the way that Sony decided to do it is that, you know what, it's probably more effective if we send out 50 to 100 units to creators early, either 2 weeks, 3 weeks, sometimes a month early. That's what they do, and I can't see them doing another event anytime soon. Canon, on the other hand,
is still pushing events.
Push events where we get the gear when we go to the event, and it still takes us time. And then Nikon, on the other hand, hasn't had an event since
the Z6, I believe.
Is it the Z6?
I think that was the Disney trip was the last thing we did with them. Florida, yeah.
Yeah, they haven't had anything because it
was
like
2019.
I guess it was before the pandemic, and then the pandemic hit, and then that was that. And so what Nikon does is for a very few special people, and by special, I don't really mean special, but for a very select number of people, they will bring the gear to you for you to use it for a very limited amount of time, and then want you to make like
it's
a review about it. And I'm
like, hey, here's a brand new lens or camera. You have about an hour to check it out.
Exactly. It's frustrating because they contact you and they're like, hey, do you think you could make a review of this? And we're like, no, not in an hour.
20 minutes with it. Have fun.
Right. And so that's why we call them previews. And I'm very straightforward with you when we get these things or when the videos come out that, look, we only had a matter of time with this.
And even the press trip, I mean, we're there for 3.5 days maybe, and usually the first day is just a travel day with maybe a presentation and dinner announcing the actual products to us and giving us a briefing, and then the next 2 days we're trying to cram in all of these shooting events and trying to figure out what's new with the camera. I have to do beauty shots and B-roll of the camera, menu recordings, all kinds of stuff to prep for when we get back to do the actual initial hands-on preview, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, because we don't actually go to the event and film ourselves giving our thoughts before we actually look at images or fully use the cameras.
We actually used to, which we stood on location, which was so tough because we haven't even tested out half the features usually. So we're trying to... I like it now where I'll let you do whatever you want, go shoot how you normally would shoot. I'll follow you around, we'll get some B-roll, and we'll figure it out later. We'll try and get everything done right now in terms of like getting used to the cameras, using the new features, stuff like that, and then we'll talk about it at home. And it just seems to be a much better process that way.
The EOS R was one that we were forced to do while we were in Hawaii because they gave it to us like we had to come up with it was getting announced, right? I don't remember. Did we do a preview?
Well, it's usually the Sony trips where we're doing a preview because it's being announced the same day when we find out, like that night. And that's always really tough. Yeah.
Yeah, that was difficult.
But Canon, I think we did an initial hands-on. I thought we filmed a lot of stuff on location, but I thought we still did a lot. I think I edited at home. I don't remember being there.
You may have. No, you edited there, dude.
Did I?
I went swimming. Yeah, you're like, go swim. And I'm like, okay. And you had to stay up all night to do something.
It must have been a quick like announcement video then or something, because we have like a 20-minute hands-on preview that we did after the fact. I definitely did not edit that there because that would have taken days.
It's getting blurry from being so long ago at this point.
Oh yeah, 2018.
The point here is we would prefer actually not doing press trips because, again, we've said this before. People think that a press trip is a vacation for us, and it's not a vacation for us. It's
I despise them personally, man. It's a lot of work in a few days.
It costs me money because I'm out of the studio and I have to take Steven with me, and it costs money to have Steven, and it's also downtime from not being able to do work at home. And we're not complaining about doing trips. Trips are fine. We do what we need to do, but we recommend that they try to copy what Sony does, which sends you the camera and then you do it on your time. So then we can slot it in instead of being forced to be like, you got to go and you got to do it between this date, and this date. Oh, and by the way, you got 2 business days when you get home to edit the final video to get it out.
And the R5 was great because we had almost 3 weeks with it. You did multiple photo shoots with it.
A7 R5 Sony.
A7 R5, yes. You did multiple shoots with it. I had plenty of time to do B-roll of the actual new camera, menu recordings, write down all the notes, take my time with that, actually film in the studio with it. It's just so much easier doing it that way than being rushed on a trip, having barely 2 or 3 days to do it.
Yeah. We're appreciative of the fact that we get to go do this stuff, but we would like to see it evolve, and that's why we give suggestions. Like, I don't need to go to San Diego and spend 4 days, literally a whole week. We fly out Monday. It's a 6-hour
Thursday
flight.
Afternoon, yep.
You come back Thursday. You leave at 9 o'clock in the morning from San Diego, and you get home at 5 or 6 o'clock at night, and the day is gone. And then we have to come right back to the studio to film, opposed to doing it on our time, where I go shoot, we film a preview, we edit it in our time. So something that could take maybe 3.5 to 4 days total between me and Steven at home, spread out, ends up being 4 days away, 3 more plus days of editing at home. So it ends up being a lot more time dedicated to one thing.
And you got to keep in mind, these are usually 30-minute videos that we're doing for these initial hands-on previews, especially when we're out doing actual photo shoots like that. So there is a lot of editing involved when I got home. The hardest part is we got home Thursday night, and this was being announced Tuesday night. Meanwhile, this past weekend when I was trying to edit, I had plans, so I really only had Friday night and Monday and Tuesday to work on it. It was really, really tough to get that done in time. And we told Canon about this. We said, you guys need to do it like a week prior, so then we have plenty more days. Or we recommend to everybody, Sony, Canon and Nikon. Yeah.
Can you please just do what Sony does and send us the gear? Because, look, I get it. Some other creators that go on these trips need these shoots to be set up for them because they just don't ever have real shoots to do. But us, on the other hand, we're fully capable of doing our own thing, setting up our own shoots and testing it the way that we want to test it. I think we do the best job of explaining a new camera to people. I think we cover the right stuff.
We
and I think
try, yeah.
No, we do.
Well, what I'm saying is in terms of covering stuff, there's definitely little details that we leave out, but it'd be an hour-long video if we talked about every single tiny new feature in this camera.
Right. And so, this is the initial preview because it has it's pre-production firmware,
which
we don't
it was
want to call
1.0 firmware, by the way, but they claimed it was still pre-production, and that even though it says 1.0, it's not really final. And I did find it to be pretty buggy too.
You found on the video side to be buggy,
yes.
And I didn't find any buggies on me shooting. Like, I just shoot. You want to talk about? Well, actually, how was your seat on the airplane?
Oh, it was lovely. I was in row 16, right in front of the exit row, so my seat did not go back for a lovely 5-hour flight.
I had to tell Steven that before he got on the plane. I'm like, where are you sitting? Because I'm in the exit row, Steven. He's like, oh, I'm in the row right before it. I'm like, do you know, Steven, that those seats do not recline because they're right in front of the exit row?
Keep in mind, Canon booked our flights. I specifically requested an exit row seat just like you, and for some reason I got aisle 16.
Well, they figured close enough for you. I, on the other hand, have platinum. I'm platinum, bitch. So I'm like almost executive platinum. So I get to, choose my seat, and I chose wisely. And,
I don't think I even realized you weren't in the same row until we were pretty much bored, or until that day.
Well, we don't need to sit with each other. Like, we're not.
No, but I just assumed if it was a bad seat, I would have heard from you. But you were in a different
my
row.
Seat was fine.
Yeah.
I was in the. I picked my seat as soon as I think they put me in a different seat, and then I went ahead and changed it on the back end myself.
Well, and it's the worst with me, at least. I can, no matter how tired I am, I can literally not sleep for a whole week. I can never sleep on a plane, even if my seat reclines. I can never sleep. I got a little pillow. I'm trying to sleep. Maybe I'll doze off for a few minutes, but I always catch myself and I'll end up waking up, or the littlest bump will wake me up. I can never fall asleep. So that trip home, I literally had my eyes shut for like 5 hours, the entire flight almost, and I didn't sleep once. I didn't actually go to sleep.
I got to recline, and I had extra leg room, so I could fully stretch out.
Must be nice.
Yeah.
The worst part coming home too was I still had to finish up the second RAWtalk that we recorded, and I had to do to prep all the specs and notes for the actual preview video the next morning that we had to film. So Friday morning we filmed that, and then I tried to rush home and start editing and then get the video done by Tuesday night. It's tough.
And it did. So let's get into what we think about the new gear from both Canon and Nikon, starting with the R6 Mark II. I got it right. R6 Mark II.
Not 60 Mark II, yes.
No, which I said 8,000 times.
You
Steven.
did. And I actually, when I was editing it, there was one time that I didn't catch it, and I did have to switch the audio around. Yeah,
I heard it.
You could definitely hear it, because the way you talk, you don't give any breathing room, so you just rush through a sentence, and it's very hard to try and replace audio unless you actually give me a beat.
So the R6 Mark II comes out, replaces the R6 original. Biggest question that people had was it going to be a stack sensor?
I thought it was going to.
I said all along that it wasn't going to be, because it can't. It just can't. You can't take a $6,000 camera and shrink it into
you keep saying that, but again,
$2,500
they did
camera.
that with the 1DX Mark III when the original R6 came out.
It's a different era.
I'm just saying, it's still a $6,500 camera going into a $2,500 body.
They had to bridge the gap. They had to go DSLR to mirrorless. But I just couldn't see them putting the sensor in here and calling this a $2,500 camera with a stack sensor that's from the R3. I just couldn't see it. And giving it, I mean, they already gave it 40 frames a second, which is crazy, because when I was shooting 40 frames a second with the electronic shutter, Steven, and then I picked up the R3 to test out, to do the side-by-sides, I was getting shots with the R6 Mark II because of 40 frames a second that I wasn't able to get with the R3 at 30 frames a second.
And you think 30 is plenty, but it's still, you could still miss some stuff with 30.
There's those tweener moments.
Yeah.
And so it's a slight upgrade. More so, Stephen will talk about the video features, because that's what they really focused on. But the fact is, it's not a stack sensor, but it is a new 24.2 megapixel sensor. It does shoot 12 frames a second mechanical still, and 40 frames per second with the electronic. And it wasn't that bad with the warping. If you were
unless it was crazy fast movement,
and a tennis ball is fast.
It really wasn't that. Yeah, that guy would spike that ball.
He was hitting that ball hard. He was giving it the business.
Hey, could you imagine it 4 years ago, say, when the EOS R came out? If you heard specs of like 40 frames a second electronic, 12 frames a second mechanical, all of this new autofocusing system, I mean, it's mind-blowing specs. You really got to think, just a few years ago, we didn't have any of this stuff. We barely even had 10 frames a second in these types of cameras.
The R did 3 frames a second, if that, 3.5, maybe.
And the RP, I mean, barely 2 frames a second in continuous.
Garbage.
Yeah.
It's not really garbage, but for the time, it was a good holdover to hold people over.
For the price point, $1,000, yeah.
Image quality, it's what you would expect. I think at this point, we talk about autofocus quite a bit, and I see a lot of rumblings from people like, oh, we all know the autofocus is going to be good now, but we still have to point out the fact to show you that the lock-on tracking was incredible, and I felt like it might be slightly stickier than the R3 at this point, or pretty damn close to even with it.
When I was reviewing all of the EVF footage that you shot for the actual video, I was blown away at how sticky it was. It seemed like the best Canon stickiness in terms of their deep learning technology that I've ever seen. I mean, I was texting you. I'm like, this really did a great job, because I wasn't shooting photos at all. I was strictly shooting video. And I will say that stickiness does not transfer over to the video mode. It still works great, but it's definitely not that sticky, especially from a subject that's far away for video.
Yeah, and I was shooting with the 135 1.8 at 1.8, shooting those BMX riders, and
At 40 frames, right?
at 40 frames,
Yep.
and it nails on the first frame before the jump, and it nails on the last frame after the jump. And so it's just showing you that it tracked them the whole way. We'll talk about it. We have to talk about it because it is the best autofocus out there compared to any Nikon, and compared to, I will say that it's better than the A1's autofocus.
The funny thing is, if this was a Sony press trip, they would have spent probably an hour talking about the deep learning technology and how it now picks up the back of the head and the torso and all of that. Canon barely mentioned any of that. They just said it basically has the R3 AF system for the most part, and it does. I mean, it has that torso. If you spin around, it's going from the eye to the back of the head detection and all of that. It really does a great job. They just don't push that type of marketing towards people like that. It's the best AF system ever. It's got an AI chip and all of that. It just
the goal
works.
is for us to show it, right?
Yeah.
And again, I do think that we do some of the best jobs out there of showing people the important stuff, and not just like writing an article or making a shorter video or not showing examples or showing in the camera. I like the way we do it. It's not ideal for me to hold the camera the way that I am shooting, but
it's
I
tough.
know for the video, for what we're doing, it's the best for the people at home.
Yeah.
So they can physically see the shit working. And this really, it's better than the A7 A7 IV, right? It's better, much better than that. If I had to choose a camera to pick up a system between, and we have to do this video, a Z6 II, an R6 II, or an A7 IV, even though the A7 IV is 33 megapixels, I think well-rounded, the Canon is more well-rounded straight up.
I agree. I think if you were to compare the original R6 with the A7 IV, I would probably take the A7 IV unless I was going for crazy fast action and wanted that high frame rate. But now, I mean, almost every spec for spec beats it.
But the A7 IV's focus was laggy. Remember when I was shooting that? I think I took it to a Flyers game.
See, I strictly did video, so I can't really comment on photos.
Well, it was laggy, right? It was just laggy. It lagged behind what I expected it to do.
I thought you were talking more about the lagginess of the frame rate because you were shooting like 6 frames a second uncompressed.
Well, that shit's slow, but the lagginess of the focus felt like it was just slightly behind the subject. Either that's just the delay of the focus box moving in the camera because it's not as powerful, or what, but I just felt that, if I had to choose, Sony hasn't upped their frame rates in a long time. What I don't get is how Canon can do 40 frames a second and 12 frames a second mechanical, but Sony's will be like, we could do 10 frames a second mechanical, but 4 frames a second electronic. You're like, what are you talking about?
Well, it's technically 7 electronic, but that's if it's compressed raw and everything. But yeah, you're getting like 4, maybe, if that.
The moral of the story is the R6 II is a solid offering for people that want to jump into that ecosystem or want the faster frame rates or wants the new video features. You want to hit up quickly on the main key points of the video, Steven? Video features?
Before I get into that, the other thing about the A7 IV is their electronic shutter mode, in my opinion, is pretty much unusable in photo mode. I mean, there is always some really extreme rolling shutter in Sony's electronic shutter mode. Their readout is not nearly as fast as Canon. I mean, Canon, if you weren't shooting a crazy fast tennis player, I would say it almost looks like it's stacked sensor in most of the photos that you shot. The running, 40 frames a second.
They're running at me. You can't sit there and look at any of those images and say that there's some warping. I know they're running directly at me, but that's a great test for, 1, focus running towards you, and 2, is there any issues with the warble? And I didn't see it.
I couldn't see it either, unless you're really looking at a straight object that, like the tennis racket or a baseball bat or a golf club. That's where I think it would be noticeable. It still would only show minimal warping. Like, I feel like it really wasn't that bad compared to the original R6. Even the R6 wasn't that bad.
No. Hit us with those video features that you liked in that camera.
Well, speaking of a fast readout, the rolling shutter on this in video mode was very minimal. I mean, I could really do a whip pan back and forth, and those straight objects are barely bending in the frame. Where again, if you're dealing with something, even like the R5 had a fast readout, but I could still see some if I did a really fast whip pan. So whatever they're doing with the R6 Mark II, whether it's the sensor or the way they tweak the Digic X processor, it definitely is a much faster readout in video mode, and again, electronic shutter for photo. Video wise, we've now have full width 4K up to 60p oversampled from 6K, which is really nice. Before it was 5K to 4K oversampled, and I believe it was like a 1.1x crop when you did 4K 60. So now you are getting that full width. Now I know the rumors were saying it was going to be the same or even worse of a crop, and that's not the case at all. So you are getting full oversampled video now. They're also saying you get 40 minutes or longer of runtime in 60p based on Canon's internal testing, and that's in terms of like overheating. Will it overheat? Now, I've had people on the press trip, I think they went for like an hour 20 in 4K 60 in their hotel room, and it still didn't overheat.
What were they doing in their hotel room, Steven? Hey.
I shot 4K 24 outside. It was probably 75 degrees, sunny all day, both days, and I had zero overheating warnings, nothing. The camera wasn't even hot, so I think that is a thing of the past. And again, even the original R6 and R5 now, I think that's pretty much a thing of the past with their recent firmware, I think 1.6.2 update. They really did fix that.
Someone it left a comment, because I got to read a few of the comments, and they're like, "Oh, this is a deal breaker for me with Canon. This fact that it still limits video and no third-party lens support." And I'm like, "Wait a second." I'm like, "Did you not listen to what we said? We said 40 minutes when it comes to shooting." In terms of overheating is what they tested it to. Correct. For 4K 60, but it's unlimited record time.
Yep. So you can keep going and you don't have to stop every 29:59 to stop and start the camera. So that will really be helpful for like wedding shooters if they're shooting long ceremonies, stuff like that. They also have full width 1080p up to 180p for super slow-mo. I did that a couple of times. The only thing is, I mean, I hate Canon slow motion because it bakes it in at 30p, so it's already slowed down when you bring it into your NLE, and there's no audio, where Nikon and Sony will give you both options if you want audio burned in or not. I think that's really helpful. And again, their files are not slowed down, so you can slow it down yourself to say 24p or something like that in post, and it's not burned in at 30. Also, the thing I've always hated about the Canons is they limit the 10-bit 422 options to C-Log 3 only or the HDR-PQ. So that's really frustrating because, again, Sony or Nikon will give you those options even if you're not shooting in N-Log or S-Log. Still only the IPB compression that they offer. That's also an annoying thing. They should offer All-Eye. Now, I do get it. It's a lower price camera, so they have to limit some of the functions there. I think All-Eye is limited to the time-lapse movie only. They also have RAW output now. Now, I don't really care for this personally, but it does do ProRes RAW if you have a Ninja 5 Plus recorder. It'll do 10-bit 6K or it'll do 12-bit 3.7K, which is pretty nice. But the 3.7K, I believe, is Super 35 if you wanted to shoot that option. And you'll get a 12-bit over a 10-bit file. They had that new detect only AF mode. I tried that with you. It was being pretty buggy with my camera in general. I feel like had a lot of issues. Like the sensor was not clean when I went to do some of the beauty shots after the fact. It looked like someone definitely used it before. So I don't know if I had more of a pre-production camera than you guys. They also had that new Second Cinema Q style menu, which is really nice. I did use that a lot, where you just hit the Q button twice when you're in video mode, and now you can quickly change your frame rate. You can change into C-Log. You can change into the high frame rate 1080p mode, stuff like that. The only thing I didn't like, you cannot customize that at all. It's locked in at just those 6 custom preset options, which is kind of annoying. I prefer Sony's their tile menu more because it gives you pretty much anything that you can quickly change when it comes to video. And something that R6 current users will love if they shot video a lot is there's no more just auto or manual mode. Now you can pretty much do exactly like the R5 does. You can be in aperture priority, shutter priority, FV mode. You could do all your C1, C2, C3 buttons now, not just the C3 option. So there's a lot more flexibility when it comes to video in this camera. And there's more options too, but I don't want to go nuts and talk forever about the video stuff. Well,
it's what I call a mid-level refresh, but it is an okay mid-level refresh. So if you already have an R6 and you're happy with it and you don't need all the video features, you probably don't need to dump it. But if you're a working professional or someone who makes money, I always say this. My whole thing has always been you sell the camera at its top dollar when the new camera comes out, and you roll all that money back into the new camera. So in essence, you're renting a camera for 2 to 3 years in essence, and then taking the money and putting it into the new body. That's so you're not spending $2,500 every time, or in my case, spending $5,000 or $6,000 back when the cameras were that, when I was buying cameras like that. I would take the Nikon D4S and sell it for $400 to $4,600 and roll it into a $5,500 camera. And even if it cost me $1,000, that's all it cost me was $1,000 to have that camera for a couple of years. So,
yeah, like you said, I think
that's what I do.
For the most part, most current R6 users, I don't think there's a huge need to update, but it is really nice if you were looking at the R6. I think this is a great mid-level refresh, like you were saying. It's only been a little more than 2 years. It was July of 2020 when they announced the initial R6, and now it's already out with a Mark II. They did drop the price, by the way. It is now $2,299, I believe. So it's $200 off. Correct.
Why? What?
The original R6 I'm talking about.
Oh, sorry. I was like, what do you mean?
Not the R6 Mark II.
So how much is it?
So it's $22.99 for the R6 and $24.99 for the R6 Mark II.
Yeah, spend the extra bucks,
and
guys,
the night I was
get one new.
editing it, we were posing that question at the end of the video, like, what are they going to drop the price to? Is it going to be $100, $200, $500? It is $200, but they just dropped it when they actually announced the R6 Mark II. Because I was trying to take screenshots, and it was still $24.99.
Well, the reason that's important to know that it's $22.99 is because that now tells you what you can get for your used camera, right? You're not going to get $2,000, but I think you could get $1,850 roughly or so, which,
$1,600, $1,800, yeah.
But even $1,600, so $1,600, let's get out our math-calator here. Math-calator, Steven. $24.99 minus $1,650. $849 it will cost you to upgrade if you sell it. Now, you could always call Alan's Camera, go to Brandon at Alan's Camera, and you can trade in your R6 and trade it up for an R6 II. You may get even less than $1,600 because you have to remember that as a store, they have to turn around and sell it.
Yep.
But also understand that if you do trade something in at the store, you only pay tax on the difference. So you don't pay tax on the whole amount. You would pay tax on the $849.
And it's so much easier just trading in at the store instead of having to try and sell it yourself. It's always a pain in the ass. Do you want to buy my 5D Mark IV, by the way?
No one wants your 5D Mark IV, Steven. It's even more worthless today than it was yesterday.
Don't say that.
But you know who could buy it, Steven?
Who?
Your haircut guy.
Oh,
your
not
barber.
this again.
Do you know I found out an interesting statistic about Manny Ortiz?
You told me.
Manny Ortiz goes and gets his hair did every Saturday.
And it looks like it.
Every Saturday, he goes and gets a line cut into his head, maybe into his eyebrow. We're still not sure if that's there or if maybe he has a scar, but I'm thinking that Manny Ortiz has his eyebrow shaved a specific way because he wants to be popping fresh.
Man, that's got to be a lot of cash each month or annually.
Think about it. Now, if we're Manny Ortiz and we're paying $60, let's say he gets a discount, it's $50. Let's say he goes 50 weeks out of 52. Do you know how much that is? $2,500. That is
he could buy an R6
Mark II. Hey, Manny, let your hair grow and you can buy an R6 Mark II, bro.
Man.
Anyway, continuing on with new gear, I like the camera, but I like the lens even better. The 135-1.8. It's an RF and it has IS built in.
Yes.
That is a lens that I mean, I can't say I've been waiting for it. It was great that it's in existence. The weight is less than the 135 Sony.
Barely.
And
I mean, we're talking like maybe 1/10 of a pound.
Right, but it has IS built in where the Sony doesn't.
Correct.
And the price is the same at $2,100. I use this lens pretty much 90% of the time on this trip because I'm like, well, I don't want to shoot with the 70-200 when I got a 135, and I think it's a much better test to shoot. I shoot wide open at 1.8.
Oh, shooting action at 1.8, 40 frames a second, that's a great test.
Yeah, and nailing it it's even better that you could do the 85-1.2 and still nail it. But the 135 is a gorgeous lens. Any professional is going to need that lens in their bag. Hands down.
I still question, like, do I want the 85-1.2 or the 135-1.8?
I want both.
Because 135 could be a little tight.
It can be a little tight. It also, I like the 1.2 look sometimes better.
I do too.
That's why we kind of like the 105 range, the 105-1.4 that Nikon had. I think I still have it. I need to get rid of that.
I do feel like that 105 is like that perfect sweet spot, but I think I'd rather get an 85 over the 135 because you only need one or the other. You really don't need both.
I need both.
Well, I
Do you
mean,
know
you need
who
the
I
best
am?
of the best.
Do you know who I am?
So the Canon 85 II is much more expensive. It's $2,600 over $2,100, and that's with $200 off for the holidays right now.
What holiday, Steven? We're in November.
Dude, they start announcing Christmas specials like 2 months ahead of time.
Does this have anything to do, like, was Jesus around in November or something? I took the 135-1.8 to the Phillies game because, yes, I actually am shooting the World Series. And by the time this comes out, the Phillies will either be down 3-2 or up 3-2. When this comes out Thursday night, Friday morning, we'll know what's going on. I will get to catching up on all the baseball stuff later on, but I do want to say that I took the 135 out to the baseball game, and dude,
and
the colors.
You had it out before it was officially announced, correct?
No, I didn't, Steven.
No?
No, actually, I shot the soccer game on Sunday night before. Yes,
With
I had
the 135.
I had permission to do it. They just felt that I wouldn't be seen on TV at the soccer game. And they
you
were wrong.
were.
And they were wrong because I'm in the corner and the guy scores the third goal and he goes over to the flag and he salutes it, and I'm there with a camera that no one can tell what lens
Well, that's
and
the
camera
good thing.
I'm
It pretty
using.
much looks like an 85 or a 50 or something like that.
The kid next to me goes, "Oh, that was that the 24 you had on?" And I'm like, "Yes." And you know,
That's
I
a
don't like
long-barreled
lying.
24.
I don't like lying, Steven.
You have to
I don't
lie
like
in those
lying.
situations.
He's like, and he was
no,
shooting
actually,
Canon.
it's a brand new 135 that's not announced yet. Tell the
I'm like,
world.
have you seen this? Have you seen this?
Take
yet?
a picture
This
for
is-
Canon rumors.
Yeah, and here I am, and I by the way, I sent that to our one person at Canon. When someone tweeted it, they're like, "Oh, Jared's on TV shooting a soccer game now."
What
and
did
I
he
sent
say?
it to him. And he's like, "No one knows." Plus, it wasn't. The shit leaked before that anyway.
Well,
And
so that's the other thing I want to get on real quick is the leaked stuff. All of the images, the renderings, the specs, all of that stuff that leaked was pretty much prior to us finding out about the R6 Mark II. So it's not the press people that are leaking this kind of stuff. It's either someone internal or the dealers like we were talking about last week, but it's not us. So that's why I wish these press trips were moved like a week ahead of time, because that's what they're scared of is leaks.
And even that, graphics, we have no. We
have
We
none.
didn't get graphics until midnight.
We got
when
nothing.
it was announced.
We got a spec sheet that I could reference, but I could not even screenshot it or show it, which was very unfortunate because I always like to kind of prove what you're saying is confirmed by Canon by showing some of their spec sheets or something like that. And I couldn't for certain things, but whatever.
Yeah, so I shot the soccer game with it, which is it's not an ideal soccer lens,
No.
of course. When a subject is in the frame or filling the frame, it's a hell of a lot better than when they're at a distance. If they're at a distance, it looks like shit. It doesn't work. But
The baseball
Phillies,
stuff behind the scenes looked cool.
dude, the colors were so popping with the R3 and that lens and Skittles.
So were you at base ISO 100?
I was close.
Because Skittles will pop the most when you're at base ISO.
Let me look.
It shouldn't matter what the lens looks like. If you could shoot any lens and be at 100 ISO, and it should really pop those colors. I'm saying if you were at 800 or 1600, I mean, obviously,
here's 100.
the higher
A
you
couple
go.
of these are at 100.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm at 100, and oh my god, does it look great? I'm at 1/1250th of a second at 1.8 at 100 ISO.
There you go.
I've got some awesome Schwarber pictures. I did post them, so they are up on the Instagram, so you can see those. I had to double check in my head that I'm not leaking anything at this point.
I
'cause
texted
I'm like,
you that day. I was like, please, no Instagram post or anything with that lens because it wasn't announced yet.
well, the thing is, I they didn't want me getting seen on TV, so I didn't take it out. Did I take it out? Oh yeah, yesterday was the second game. Being that it was the day before it came out, and the fact that all of the shit already leaked,
Yeah.
I made the decision before the game just to use it during warm-ups because I'm like, I'm going to shoot these pictures. No one gives a shit. Like, this isn't on TV. This isn't coming out. Like, it was fine. So I used it to take warm-up the batting practice shots, and I got some beautiful shots. I mean, that lens is absolutely gorgeous.
So the R6 Mark II only goes to 1/8,000th of a second in either electronic or mechanical shutter mode. Did you find any issues like where you almost were letting too much light into the camera and you had to be at like 1/16,000th?
It was 4:30, 5 o'clock at night.
Yeah, but what
and
about
so
San
the
Diego
sun-
is what I mean.
Oh, well, let me look.
I assume you were probably at like 1/8,000th of a second, like maxed
Hold on.
out.
Let me pull up
base
the whale's
ISO.
vagina, Steven.
Because I think I heard Manny talking about he almost had to like put an ND filter on because he was letting too much light in.
I'm pulling up the whale's vagina as we speak. So I have a photo of Manny Ortiz's beautiful face here. This is at 1/4000th of a second at 1.8.
Okay.
The action shots are 1/6400th
So
at
you're
1.8
almost
at 100.
there.
I was almost there. And let me see if I'm off with my exposure at all.
That's the only thing I wish they gave the R6 Mark II was kind of like
faster electronic.
Exactly. Like, what is it, 1/64,000th that the R3 goes to?
Man, this guy does look like Val Kilmer, by the way.
Manny?
No, the white guy. The guy who rode the BMX bike.
Oh, he does look like Val Kilmer, yeah.
I'm like, look at this Val Kilmer.
I can see that, yeah. Not Val Kilmer right now, but Val Kilmer back in the day.
No, back then. Oh, my God. Look at Manny looking at me with that jawline. Oh, I posted that picture, I think.
He's got that fresh cut.
No, it's always fresh. He's got a fresh cut
that
forever.
Fresh cut line in his eyebrow.
Yeah, hey, I'm going to be that. Hey, guys, let's get the Manny Ortiz haircut style. Ay, papi.
By the way, also talking about that lens, the R6 Mark II does have now focus breathing correction, just like focus breathing compensation. And that's all it does. It helps you breathe better when you're shooting. Now, it works with the 135, but it doesn't work with any other RF lenses currently. They said in future firmware updates will allow it to work with other lenses, but I didn't get a chance to test it out. But if it is like Sony's, that's going to be pretty cool for when you're racking, video-wise.
Yeah. But I really I love the lens, and I have to send back the pre-production model that I have. And
is the lens pre-production?
They told me it was pre-production.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
And I called bullshit, and they're like, no, it really is. I'm like,
every time they're like, it's pre-production. It's like,
it is. It's
really?
a pre-production, but I have to send it back. And actually, I didn't even look at. Let me go. You want me to go look at the serial number?
Oh, yeah.
Let me go get it. Hold on.
And while you're getting that, Sony will always say it's pre-production on their actual cameras, but you can tell it is because it's some weird firmware like 0.19746. It's never 1.0 or 2, whatever it may be. But Canon, again, it was 1.0 firmware, so I question, was it really pre-production, camera-wise?
All right, so I got the lens here, and let me see what it says. It's got a real serial number on it.
0001.
No, it's 00... No, why don't I use the camera? It's so much easier when I use my iPhone camera to see this shit because I'm
of the macro lens.
Yeah, 09302 or 70489. It's real. Like this is a production unit. I don't know. Maybe the firmware is not final, but this is definitely a production unit. I love this lens. It was cool when I got to show the press people finally after midnight. Actually, it was right after midnight, so it was after the first game.
Embargo has been lifted.
The embargo was lifted at 12:01 when you posted the video, and we were still at the stadium because the games were on long. And I'm like, hey guys, who wants to see this lens?
Look what I got. Look at how cool I am with this new Canon lens.
I'm like, do you guys want to touch it? All you AP photographers, all you Getty photographers, all you USA Today, do you guys want to see something that no one has but I do?
Exclusive.
Ooh. Anyway, there's one other lens to talk about. We can move on from the Canon stuff.
Well, I do want to say I'm still waiting on a 35-1.2 from them, and then I think they pretty much have it across the board.
200 f2, 200 1.8,
I mean,
maybe.
You're talking really specialty lenses now at that point.
How about a wide angle, Steven? Because when I shot the wide angle at the World Series of...
And yes, an ultra wide zoom.
The 11 to 24 does not resolve very well. When I zoom in, I almost said log in. When I zoom in on my 11 millimeter photo that I posted, it starts to go to mush more so than even the 14 to 35. But I wanted to go wide.
Been banged up or something like that because I used that lens a ton back in the day.
It's not banged up. It's not the lens. It's not anything physically that we've done to it. It's that particular wide angle does not resolve.
So that time when I dropped it 5 feet on concrete?
Fuck you, Steven. Fucking take it back.
No, I never dropped it.
I bought that lens for $500 off. I remember Adorama, it came up there at $2,500 as an open box, and I bought it.
Yeah, it was $3,000 brand new, right?
It was a $3,000 lens new like 6 years ago, 7 years ago.
Right now, it's still $3,000. Wow.
I know. Do not buy.
It was on sale for like $2,700 for the longest time, but I guess it went back up.
Yeah. Let's move on to the last lens that was released recently, and this is a big deal lens from Nikon. It's the 600 millimeter f4 with the teleconverter
and VR.
And we had a couple hours to work with it,
like 1 hour to use it.
basically 1 hour. We had to drive 30 minutes to then drive 40 minutes home to then record a video about it. That's why we didn't go super in depth about it. But I did test it out with the new firmware of the Z9, and I saw that people were pointing out that the new firmware mentions that their 3D tracking got better, but then they saw that I was in a certain focusing mode with face detect, and that must have been the wrong mode or is a bad mode, and so they left comments on the Photo News Fix about it, and I'm like, fuck off. Like with a Canon and with a Sony, when you go into lock-on tracking, it's lock-on tracking, and face detect, whichever it picks and decides to use, it uses. Like this whole thing that Nikon has 37 different focusing modes, and that you pick the right one for the right situation and you pick the wrong one for the wrong situation. I wasn't in 3D tracking. I was in the mode where you did all encompassing, because that's what I do with the other cameras to see how it does. And so you can't tell me that the algorithms are going to be much different between 3D or the other version. And even if they are, that's just stupid.
And one thing I am glad that Nikon has, now that Canon has as well, is that auto subject detection mode. I love that Nikon has that. Canon's R6 Mark II now includes that. Sony now needs that because they've got 8,000 subject detection modes to choose from.
And what Nikon needs is to do what Canon has, is that when you... Because this is a teleconverter lens. It's a 600 millimeter with a 1.4 TC built in. When you flip that TC in or TC out, your camera should automatically compensate by one stop, one way or the other. And that's either by dropping the shutter speed or raising the ISO. Of course, it's not going to have anything to do with the aperture in that case, because you're not dropping that. That's automatic. You're already making that change. So Canon offers this option.
In their custom functions mode, they have like a hidden feature that does that. I don't know. Does Nikon have that too somewhere that we just don't know about?
Nikon doesn't have it that I know of.
Okay.
No, they don't have it, because when I was talking to Greg, the photographer who shoots a lot of sports with the Union, he's like, it doesn't have this, and it would be great if it could do this. It's kind of stupid.
Well, Jared, just shooting auto ISO, man.
Yeah, you can fuck right off with that
response. I do think what Nikon's doing with these TC models, I mean, if you have the money and you're a birder or a sports shooter, that 400 TC is an awesome lens. The 600 TC, same thing, especially if you're birding. I think it's very limiting, a 600, unless you're a birder.
Extremely.
I mean, what else can you really shoot with it?
A lot of the people for news agencies that were shooting up above last night at the Phillies use a 600, and I think it's too tight for just about everything. They use it and they're like, well, look, this is great. I'm like, well, it's just a picture of the batter. And that's what they're going for, though. That's what news. I've learned a lot from talking to these news people, the AP, the Getty,
because they just need simply coverage. That's all they need. They
simply need a picture that's used in a thumbnail. They're not going artistic.
Bryce Harper
they're not
hits home run. They just need a picture of Bryce Harper.
A picture of Bryce Harper.
Yep.
And that's it from that game. And to me, I brought the 600 to the game with me because they're like, you should try it. And I look and I'm like, nah, it's too tight. 400's good.
But that's why I think if I had to choose one ultra telephoto lens from Nikon, I would probably get the 400 TC, because then you got the best of both worlds, almost 600 millimeters and 400.
You know, one of the people that was shooting Nikon there, they're like, we love the 120 to 300 for sports. And that 120 to 300 is incredible.
That's a great lens too, yeah.
I don't know that they could make a 120 to 300 with a built-in TC, but boy, that would be a pretty ultimate lens right there. And
crazy,
they're the first to do this.
Too.
They're the first to really do this. Now,
that
Canon
should be
the
model moving forward, because who's really buying a 400 and a 600?
At this point,
you're just putting a teleconverter probably on your 400 instead of buying two separate lenses. So I think it really does make sense to have that built-in TC and give them the best of both worlds, because, again, not many people are going to be buying both lenses.
And we should mention that the lens is $15,500.
Chump change, man.
The regular, back in the day, it used to be a $12,000 lens, and you could buy a teleconverter for $500 or $600.
Yeah, but
now you're paying an
so much
ultimate
better.
Premium. It is, but some of the AP guys, Getty guys that I was talking to, they're like, well, teleconverters sometimes get out of alignment, especially if you're traveling quite a bit and it gets bumped around in a suitcase or getting checked underneath the plane, because they do. I talked to one of the Elsa for Getty, and talking about gear, she's like, well, if you have like 5 or 6 bodies with you, and you've got a 400, a 600, and like a 300 or whatever, you're gonna have to check something.
They're probably all Pelican cases, right?
They have Pelican, they have industrial cases to do this, but they are checking that gear. But it does get bounced around.
I believe
so. look, it's a great lens. I think Nikon's ahead of the game for now. I think that Canon will be the next ones to come out with a 300 2.8 with a TC, a 400 2.8 with a TC, and a 600 f4 with a TC. And I don't know when Sony will. Sony has been very quiet. They don't have a 300 2.8. They have a 400 and a 600, a 2.8 and an f4.
Well, and for the longest time, that was Sony's problem, is that they had no long glass. They had no 400 or 600, and they finally caught up. And now you have Nikon kind of reinventing the wheel with the TC built in.
Yeah. So let's leave it there before I tell you that their autofocus sucks and I get yelled at for
All right, we gave them a lot of positive things. Let's talk about some net now.
Well, there are positives, but I've noticed at the World Series, it's Canon and Sony, and there is a smattering of Z6s, and then a bunch of people still just shoot D5s.
Z6s, really?
Sorry, Z9s. I dyslexic the number when I said I flipped it upside down, which is, I meant to say Z9. So a couple people have those Z9s, and I'm sure they're getting good results because whatever, we know what you can get from that. Before we move into the next thing, which is getting into the baseball stuff, I did see the kid who asked us those questions in last week's episode. He came up to me at the Phillies, at the Union game before the game to thank us. Yeah, he said that he got extra credit, and I said, well, fuck you. I want something for that extra credit that you got because it's all me and Steven. Now he said his teacher was very happy with what
I'm
he
curious,
was able to get.
did they play that in front of the class? Because there's some language in there for sure.
I don't remember. No, I asked him, I'm like, I don't know, did I curse? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, well, did you listen?
I just handed it in. I don't even know what you said.
Yeah. But it was good. It was cool to run into that kid and see him there. Then he came up to me to say something. Oh, and let's get into the Phillies stuff because playoffs, that's what I've been doing. You know who I saw yesterday?
Joe?
Again? Joe.
Did you?
Yeah, Joe and Joe's sister. So Joe's sister has a shtick. Joe's sister has a shtick at the game. She carries popcorn around, right? So she has a way of balancing it on the top of her head. So she can walk without hands, and the whole bucket with all the popcorn in the boxes above it is balanced on her head, and people are like,
take some skill, man.
Yeah, be careful. Yeah, like, 20. And her number is 23 on the back of her shirt, and you just hear the guys like, oh, be careful. 23, we see you. And then, you guys never heard Joe talk because he didn't have a microphone, but holy fuck does he yell about beer. Oh my God, he's so loud. You can hear him from around the stadium. He's like, beer.
I heard him on the broadcast last night. I just heard beer.
Yeah, that was Joe. I'm going to see if I can find him tonight at Game 5 and see if I'm going to record him. I'm going to record him, not for this episode, but for the vlog that I'm doing. I'm going to record him yelling about beer. I need to text him. Let me just remind myself to text Joe to come and see me.
So you're going to give him a microphone, is what you're saying?
Well, I'm not going to. I'm going to hold on to the microphone, and he's going to yell his beer, and he's selling like $16.50 some cans of something.
Sounds about right.
And then $12 cans of like Miller Lite or something.
Yeah.
I don't know what the other stuff is called. It was some weird,
damn expensive, man.
I don't know, but yeah, he goes around and he man, does he yell?
I think it's the craft beer, like 22 ounces that are like
Sierra something.
Sierra Nevada, yeah.
It wasn't Sierra Nevada. It was something else though.
I don't know other beer. brands.
Beer. I don't know.
Sierra Nevada is the brand. I know they sell that.
Go Google that on Phillies.
It's probably their pale ale or something.
Look up beer at the Phillies game. Now I'm gonna look it up because why not? Beer at Citizens Bank Park. What are the beer options? What beers are available at Citizens Bank Park? Hazy Life Coach, Conshohocken Brewing, Level Up, Yards Brewing, Cloudy and Cumbersome, Perpetual IPA, Voodoo Ranger, Goose, Oktoberfest,
Goose Island,
Philadelphia Pale Ale. None of these are the beers that are that he was carrying. Miller Lite,
they've got a decent selection of craft beer. Stella, sorry. Shit, none of these are what he was carrying. Anyway, I don't know what the beer was. I don't even have Joe's number, so I'd have to send him a message. You were going to text him.
I know. I don't know. I have to remember how to get in touch with Joe. I may have his. What's Joe's last name?
I don't know.
Do you even know Joe's last name?
No.
Did Joe get married and have a kid?
I have no idea. I don't know anything about Joe at this point.
Let me type Joe into my phone. Joe Badia. Joe DeMarco.
DeMarco, that's it. Yes.
Wait, that's him. I'm calling him right now. Yeah, no, I'm calling him. Joe, this is your one chance to have a microphone. Joe.
What's up?
It's Jared. You're live on the show.
What's going on?
We're just talking about you. What are the beers that you sell again?
So I have Miller Lite and Surfside Vodka, which has stateside vodka for PA in it.
Oh, the Surfside. It was vodka, Steven.
Not Sierra at
Yeah,
all.
it's vodka tea.
Okay, Joe, can you give us a quick... Wait, you have a kid, right?
She's not here right now, but I do have a kid.
So you can scream about beer. So give us for the podcast. Show us how you yell.
No, I can't do that right now. I got a sleeping dog right next to me. Literally, I'll wake up the whole half of my neighborhood.
Yeah, Joe, it's for the you have a microphone opportunity right here.
I have a microphone. Wow, I feel.
Can you walk outside and do it?
Let me see what I can do.
Oh, and later, I want to get you on the vlog doing it. So if you see me at the stadium, I want to.
I'll pull you over. Don't worry, I got you.
All right, give me a countdown when you do this, because I want people to hear how Joe is on the without a microphone at the stadium.
Oh, what? Because I'm loud as shit?
Yeah, you're beyond loud.
I know I am. Okay, let me see. Okay, you ready?
Ready.
Hey, ice cold Miller Lite.
What's the other one?
Cold Miller Lite and Surfside.
Yeah, all right. That's great, Joe. Thank you.
You got it.
All right, I'll see you at the game tonight.
Okay, see ya.
Bye.
He's like, Jared, I'm in church or I'm at a funeral. Beer here.
Joe got part of a microphone.
He's like, I can't do it right now, man.
Miller Lite here.
Oh, I hope there's someone
Miller
like walking down the street. You just hear Joe screaming.
That wasn't even full volume for Joe. He goes much louder.
I'm
than
sure
that.
he does. Yeah.
Holy shit! You see this guy coming, and you're like, "Wow, he's
man.
selling Surfside vodka."
Yeah, it's called Sierra.
Surfside. I don't know what Surfside is.
You're like Sierra. I'm like, it's got to be Sierra Nevada.
No, it's Surfside. God damn it!
Well, now I know.
All right, let's tell. It's been busy for me because every Phillies home game,
Which is good. Keeping Jared busy is always a good thing.
Yeah, it is. For each round, I've had, and I got to get ready to go soon back to the stadium for Game 5, but each round I've been at every home game. I've had a pass for the first round, the second round, the third round, and I got approved for my pass for the World Series as well. So what was crazy is during the San Diego series is if San Diego won a game here in Philly, they were going to be playing Monday, Tuesday in San Diego. When we were flying in Monday, I would have gone to the stadium with a pass most likely to shoot the game, but thankfully the Phillies won at home, and you guys got to see me on TV running around. It was a rainy game, but you got to see me on TV. People did point it out that I love the fact that I get to run around the field and be seen. I like the being seen part.
You know.
Yeah. Well, no, I like it because it lends credibility, as I said, and validity to what I do.
Look at me. Look at my 135 lens and my big guns and my purple shirt, my giant afro. I don't like being seen, though.
In my arms, I'm wearing red today for the game because I had to change it up after fucking yesterday's no-hitter where they didn't have a hit in the World Series.
Can't wear the same shirt,
and
yeah.
I can't wear purple again, so I'm going to wear
Might as
red.
well burn it.
Yeah, it was my fault. It was my fault that they lost.
Speaking of San Diego, though, the backup plan was, like you said, for you to go and then for basically me to take all the notes. Because the thing is the initial presentation and briefing was that night.
Yeah, and I was skipping it.
When we were to find out about all the new gear, the R6 Mark II, the new flash, the new lens. And yeah, so you would have basically skipped that, which is really not that big of a deal because I kind of take all the notes anyway. So
no, because what about that dinner, Steven?
What about it?
I went looking for my own dinner again.
Oh, that's weird.
I know. But I show up anywhere between 4 and 4.5 hours early, roughly, for these games. And there's people that beat me there.
And that's actually late, yeah.
Everybody's already set up because they have to set up remote cameras, these press photographers.
What are the remote cameras usually? I saw the one you Instagrammed. It was like a 1DX Mark III or something. Bunch of them. Stacked.
Oh, that was stacked. There was a Sony there. There was 2 Canons. That was for home plate.
I was gonna say they have home plate, like the picture mount.
That's home plate. Then there's 3 up in the Getty guy. I walked around with him and filmed him putting 3 up into the rafters.
Wow.
Up in the 400 level, and then they used 100 to 400s around 400, and one was around 350, shooting different places, home plate, different angles, and they just trigger all them with remotes, and they hope they get stuff.
Could you do that if you wanted to, since you're press,
I'd ask
or is
for
it
permission.
just Getty that has that access?
Well, I would have to ask for permission to do it, and they put magic arms up, and they've got the protection, the wire.
They have like a safety, yeah.
Yep. All of that. So we're we know how that works. But for the vlog that I'm doing for the World Series, I'm going around and showing different types of cameras, all the think tank bags in the room, seeing who's shooting Nikon, Canon, Sony, all of that type of stuff. But I like to get there super early because I like to walk around the field, not because I want to be seen, but mostly because I want to be seen. And I'm standing out there off to the side, and this pitcher for the San Diego Padres walks over. Well, a player for the Padres walked over, a big guy. So the player comes up to me and introduces himself as Josh, and I'm not familiar with every baseball player in the league. I don't follow that closely, but he's like, hey, when I was in the minors, me and this other guy on the Philly staff now, we used to watch your videos in the hotel rooms at night.
That's so cool.
And that's awesome. He's like, I shoot, I enjoy shooting, and I wanted to thank you. And it was Josh Hader, who is one of the most nasty closers in the game, throwing 100 plus miles an hour, and he got traded by Milwaukee to go to San Diego, and that was awesome. That a player came up. We just had a cool conversation before the game, and that's what I like. I like being out there and talking to these players. I like getting recognized by people. I like that.
Well, it's affirmation too. At the end of the day, like that, where people are actually watching our content. It takes a lot to produce these types of videos, and it's kind of nice with every once in a while when you get someone coming up and being like, "Hey, thanks for everything you do." Blah blah blah.
Well, and then I was back in the press area, the overflow, they call it the auxiliary press area, where they had the photographers. It kept getting bigger and bigger each time for the World Series and for the other rounds. But this one girl comes up to me and she's like, I just want to let you know that I learned a lot from you when I started photography, and I had this goal of being a sports photographer, and now she works for a newspaper in San Diego and gets to shoot professionally and shoot sports. She wanted to be a sports photographer. And so that was awesome that someone in person comes up to me and is like, you actually helped me, which there's been a lot of people. And so that's cool.
Very cool.
And I like being in the press area before the games. Now, what I do have to be mindful of is that these people are working.
Yeah.
Right? They are going through what I go through during when something's super important for me. Like, I'm in a mindset of I'm shooting, leave me the fuck alone. And these guys get in, and girls get into that mindset as well, as they have to focus. They have to think about what they need to do. And I just have to remember not to bother people because they're there. This is their job. And yes, it's my job too, but it's a little less stressful for me because if I miss something,
you're not
miss
on
something.
Assignment. Yeah.
Right. I'm not, if I miss the shot, I make a video about me missing the shot.
Exactly.
And so
it's content.
It's not as big of a deal for me.
It's almost better if something goes wrong.
Well, no, I mean, I don't want anything to go wrong, but
I'm just saying it leads to content and everything.
I just have to be mindful of that, but I do like talking with them. And some of the people are asking me questions about gear, like what would you do, or what do you suggest, or what do you like? One guy was saying he's going to be doing more video. Do I like the Rode microphone I was using? And the answer is absolutely. The Rode Video Mic Pro Plus is a fantastic, awesome mic for running and gunning.
Yeah.
Another thing that kind of doesn't get to me fully, but there's this thing where, not the press people asking, but other people who don't know what I do, they're like, who do you work for? And I'm like, myself.
It's so hard to explain to people
they're like,
that.
What do you mean you work for yourself? I'm like, they're like, who are you affiliated with? I'm like, me. Frono's Photo. They're like, what? And I'm like, well, what people don't understand is that the reach that we have is, one, it's global, and two, it's larger than some publications that cover these games. And so I have to remember that. Like, I have to remember that I do belong here.
Yeah.
That my affiliation is myself. I've made this, and that's why I'm there, because I reach a ton of people and affect a lot of people. And it's global. It's not just regional. And so I have to remind myself that. And then when people say things, it's like, I mean, it doesn't bother me that they say it, but I just make them understand, like, I get 1.4 million subscribers. Like, we're global. We got 250 million views.
I think the worst part is when you say, like, you're a YouTuber. I think that many people are like, oh, what do you, like, dance on YouTube or do stupid little videos? Like, they don't understand that it is a full-on, like, production company for the most part.
We are a production company for ourselves. Yeah, and the same thing happens with other staffers or people that talk to you. They kind of aren't able to wrap their head around the fact that Yeah, I'm different. Like, I am a publication. Newspapers are newspapers.
I consider this new media,
Well, I hate the word new media.
I'm just saying.
I consider it just fucking media. This is the landscape, and it's important, right? And you're right. It's new, but it's not new. Stop, camera. Stop blinking at me. It's new.
But they're stuck in the traditional,
they're still
newspapers.
stuck. Like, it's not, you're not a publication. I'm like,
Yeah.
I am a publication. Like, when we put up a video and it gets 100,000 views in 24 hours, that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. I did do that first vlog at the Phillies game. I thought that turned out great.
I agree. I love seeing the behind the scenes footage and what goes on. And, I don't ever have access to that kind of stuff. So I thought that was really interesting.
Do you know the key to that video was the title, flat out? If
Wow,
I didn't
super
put the title
clickbaity.
in Canon or Sony, which was legitimate because I used the Sony for one game and then I used the Canon after and explained why I like the Canon more. And Dan did a great job editing that.
He did.
Because he's good with the vlogs. And so
Making something out of nothing. Yep.
Right. And before I went out to the game yesterday, because I filmed some stuff the first day, I was feeling a little like, I don't know what I want to do with this. And
It's tough.
I felt a little better when I edited my images because I wasn't happy with the position from the game 3 of the World Series, which I could talk about in a minute. Not happy in like a bad way, like I'm upset. It's just my position was changed because I'll just say it now. In the first couple rounds, I was able to shoot down low third base, which was really cool for getting certain angles. It honestly gets a little boring after a while. All positions do, because you just get tired of shooting the same
shot
thing
over and over. Yep.
And when it's playoffs, you're not looking for stock images. You're not looking to make an image that's just a tight picture of a fielder just standing there. You're looking for game action.
The moments.
Because you don't know when that moment will be. And so you're shooting for action.
Every
and
swing, every pitch.
Right.
Yep.
And you're plucking out that one shot, right? The home run, the slide to the home plate, the close play. That's what you're looking for. And so in the World Series, my position was changed to this one in one. Yeah, it was changed. Right. It was changed. And then I was up in 116, which is a different angle, but it's a better angle than 119. 119 had that, we showed it in the vlog, it had that line through it at home plate, and 116 is a little further down, and it's a little better because you can shoot through the net. It's a clear shot through the net, and a 400 or 600 is good there. And I even went to like 38 millimeters with the 28 to 70. I had to go to I couldn't go full wide because there's an overhang over me, and I don't want to show that. And so you do see the net, but you do understand that that's part of the stadium, and it's totally fine. But anyway,
did anyone bitch about that title, by the way, for the vlog?
I didn't get a chance to read the comments, but I think the average watch time is over 10 minutes, which is, people engaged with it. They really liked it.
Oh, it's much different than what what they're used to seeing on this channel. But it sucks because we can't just simply call it behind the scenes at a World Series game or something that, that's what it is. But we had to really clickbait it to Canon or Sony and then kind of blur out the image of what you're shooting with. And it almost looks like you're choosing one or the other. And really, that's not.
But it works because when people average watch time is over 10 minutes, that means they're engaged.
Oh,
and
yeah.
That's the point. But Dan gave me some ideas. I asked him, like, anything you need from me, suggestions, ideas for when I get to the stadium for what I should film. And so the first game, I walked around and followed around those photographers putting remote cameras up. I didn't really talk to the camera at all, and I didn't take out the 360 camera. I walked around the field showing where all the people were set up, all the news stations, just hundreds of them down there, and I didn't use the 360 for that game. I will say that when I was in 116, I do have to stand up sometimes. If the fans stand up, I've got to stand up and get higher, and they're standing room only seats, they're not seats, they're standing room only locations behind our shooting area.
Down in front.
And
you with the fro.
Those people were none too happy that I was going to be shooting from where I was shooting.
Oh, I bet.
But that's why there's signs up that say this is a press area, this is where we're shooting. And I got hit with like 5 or 6 different things. Some guy kept throwing shit at me. Right? And I think I know which asshole it was by the end of the game. But I went after the first or second inning of getting hit and yelled at. I went over to the big security guy that I always see at the concerts because he was 2 aisles over. I'm like, hey, can we get security over? I'm getting shit thrown at me and other people are getting threatened. by the fans, can you send security over?
Sounds like
so
Philadelphia.
They did. Well, they did. They sent security over, which was fine. But these guys were getting pissed, and they were fine. Like they followed my Instagram, and when Heather, this one photographer, she came over, and they're like, "Oh, you're going to be shooting there too? You're going to be blocking our view?" They threatened her, and she was like, "Fuck you.
Do you know who
Do you
I
want
am?"
me to get?" She's like, "Do you want to get kicked out of here?"
Exactly.
She's like, "Keep it." She's like, "I'm going to stay the whole game now because you're being assholes." She fucking said it to him. She's like, "Fuck you."
And it's standing room. Like, pick another spot then.
They're right. They either bought standing room only tickets and that's all they had. They didn't have a seat. And I get it. Like, they paid money. I
get
didn't
it too,
pay
yeah.
money. Like, I get it. And I'm going to be very cognizant of certain things.
Sure.
But in this section, if everybody else stands up, I've got to get up a little higher to shoot the picture. I understand it, but it is a standing room only seat, and we have, our places to shoot. I really think this one guy was throwing shit at me, and because I was just looking, not shooting at the point, and there was a pole, and the guy stuck his head around the pole looking right at me, and I was like, oh, okay, because he was the asshole who was throwing shit.
Yeah.
But I can obviously handle it. It's just more of an annoyance. It was more that I can handle verbal, I can handle other shit. I don't want anybody getting physical. That's the one thing I don't want to have happen, and that's why I had the security there. And then for the next game, for last night's game, we actually had 3 security people sitting there during the game.
That's good.
Because they put more people up there. And I come to find out that it wasn't just us. It was all around the stadium. Wherever there was a photographer,
Oh, I bet.
they were getting threatened.
I mean, you mix alcohol with a diehard Phillies fan when they're losing too.
Yeah, and
Could
Joe
go downhill very fast.
Joe selling Sierra Nevadas,
Yeah.
whatever the alcohol was. What was it called again?
Stateside vodka or something.
It wasn't stateside.
We got to call him again.
Hey, Joe, what was that shit? Hey, guys, hashtag, what's the beer? Joe beer. Hey, beer man. Hashtag, hey, beer man. Hashtag, hey, beer man Joe. Joe's fucking loud. So for the last game, for yesterday, they had the security there, and I actually moved around a little bit more. I went to a different section, and what was good is there was a steel girder that I could put my back against,
Nice.
so I wasn't blocking people.
Yeah.
And everybody was much nicer yesterday, even though they lost and fucking sucked. I was hoping that tonight would be an opportunity to wrap the if the Phillies won last night, they would have been up 3-1
Yeah.
with the potential to win at home, and more so a potential for Jared to go run around the field again and be seen at a World Series. In the film that the Phillies would capture, I'd be in the background for all of posterity. But that is no more because they lost, and no one's going to clinch here.
And let me get this right. Your MLB pass only grants you access at the Phillies stadium?
Yeah,
or
you have
could
to
you go
get-
to Houston as well?
No, I would have to, if I went to Houston, I'd have to call my contact, message them, and they would leave me a pass, which they most likely would.
Do you
But I
think you
also
will go?
No. I was also told that in Houston, the shooting areas are so limited. They don't have the same shooting areas as us. They have super condensed areas for the photographers to be stacked, so there wouldn't be much of a place for me to shoot. I would mostly be waiting for the ending. That's all I would care about.
Sure, yeah.
And that said, also in San Diego, it's the worst in the league for shooting because they got rid of the photo positions next to the dugouts. There's no photo positions anywhere.
Wow.
They didn't even take it into consideration when they did the
What does
stadium.
the team photographer do?
There's a spot like right next to the dugout. Miles, the Phillies photographer, was sitting in the handicap elevator thing to get handicapped people onto the field. He was sitting in that thing to shoot during the San Diego series.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's not like photographers come first, but I think Citizens Bank Ballpark does a great job in how they designed it. There's good amounts of photo wells. There's inside positions. There's outside positions. And you can shoot from upstairs and get shots. So let me see what my notes here say, because there's more to talk about. Yeah, I talked about 5 hours early. Talked about the other photographers there for a job. Talked about what gear these people have. And I really think I covered just about everything. You have any questions about the baseball stuff?
No, I'm just excited to see what other behind-the-scenes content we get out of the vlog for the next one, because I just want to know, as someone that doesn't photograph baseball or go to these major MLB games, like, just what does the average person not see televised. You know, I want to see all that kind of stuff. The
Yeah,
true
and
behind the
so-
scenes of what a working photographer is doing at a major World Series game.
Right. So yesterday, my focus was when I first got there, I sat in the empty stands and I used the Gorilla Pod, put it on the back of a seat, and
I saw.
116 where I'm shooting is in the background.
And you took
right?
an ND
And
filter.
I did take an ND
Yes.
filter. Thank you.
So we're not
I
at
did use the
F22.
Yep. I used the ND filter. And so I did a whole video there talking about my shooting position and why it changed and how it's a challenge. And I was happy with the images. This was before the game. After the game, I was more pissed off because the Phillies lost. But
Yeah.
and I also don't cheer as a shooter. There's no cheering. I can, say things on the inside, but you can't cheer. That's like a no-no. Just remember that. If you're press pass, you do not cheer. You do not celebrate. You do not do anything.
It's like trying to get an autograph backstage at a concert if you're a concert photographer. You just don't do it.
Nope, you don't do it. You just don't do it. Even though some people do it.
Oh, some people definitely do it.
I also took the 360 camera around the field, so I walked past all of the media that was set up on both sides of the field. I let it run for a little bit so Dan could have some B-roll there. I walked it to different shooting positions. I set it up behind me when I was shooting in 116 and in the 111 area where I was shooting. What else did I do with the 360? Oh, I was going to take the 360 and put it in my hot shoe if the Phillies won, and I was going to use that in the hot shoe when I ran out on the field so
cool.
we could get a 180 basically look
Sure.
in front of me. But
And the great thing is that flow state stabilization in the Insta 360 is great. I mean, it's like you're walking around with a gimbal.
Yeah, I was going to use that. I was going to put that on the hot shoe and go out on the field and shoot, but it's not to be this time around. But I think I got Dan a good amount of B-roll and A-roll, and I'm not sure what I will shoot today.
I could tell you did a voiceover after the fact for the last vlog that we did, just because you see the camera and what you're pointing at, and you're very literal and like what's on the screen. Oh, there's that. To the right, you see this. There's that.
Well, I like pointing. I honestly like pointing that stuff out.
That's very literal. Yes,
It is. I like being very literal with it. So I'm sure I'll do some more voiceover stuff here, and
Cool.
then we'll probably wrap the video up with all the images that I was able to
with
capture.
the Phillies winning the World Series.
Well, without me there. Unfortunately,
I know.
Unless someone's like, "Hey, do you want to go to Houston?" I don't know if I really. I'm not. I mean, I could. The games would be Saturday, Sunday. I would have to ask, and I didn't book flights, and obviously, all the flights are going to be booked at this point.
Yep.
Because the Eagles are there today, Thursday. It was supposed to be Phillies Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Eagles Thursday.
So Eagles are playing Houston and Phillies are playing Houston today.
Right.
Wow.
But Phillies are home and Eagles are away. I couldn't imagine 70,000 people at the Link tonight and 56,000 or 54,000 at
Right
the
next
Vet.
door.
Sorry, at the Citizens Bank would have been an atrocity. That would have been impossible.
Oh yeah. The worst is, and then add a Flyers game on top of that. At Wells Fargo.
You couldn't.
I'm
There
just
just
saying.
would be no way.
Yep.
There would be no way. So yeah, so that's it. I mean, I'm really appreciative that I've gotten to shoot the World Series. I love, the biggest part is meeting all the different photographers from around the country that come in. I met this guy, Doug Mills. He's goes by NYC Mills or something on Instagram. He is always with any president. He's New York Times. So was there with Trump. He was there with Biden. He was there with Obama. Like, he's the news photographer that goes on Air Force One. He's the guy that they bring into the White House in the White House pool to go shoot.
Wow.
And he was really cool. I told him that we were out with Bernie and he wanted to see the documentary and see the images. So I sent it to him, and hopefully he said he was going to watch it last night.
Very cool.
He was just really nice to talk to. Just about everybody's been great.
And when it comes to the working professionals, do you find that a lot of them are updated with their gear, or are they kind of a little behind, or?
Well, the Nikon shooters are behind. No. So you got to remember, if they're Getty or AP, they are given gear, and
But I
they all
thought
switch to mirrorless.
They all just switched to Sony, didn't they?
Well, Getty is Canon.
Okay.
Getty's Canon. AP is all Sony.
Mm-hmm.
So they all do have A9s and A1s. They have big glass. They have 1DX Mark IIIs, which no one was really using. I saw mostly R3s.
All mirrorless, pretty much.
All mirrorless. And then some of the Inquirer, like Young Kim still uses a 1DX Mark III for the newspaper. I asked him about it during the season. He said that he wanted the new guys to get the new gear, and he didn't really see a need for it, so he doesn't. But most of it's mirrorless. Bunch of Z9s but not new Z glass other than 7200.
Adapted.
You don't see 400 2.8. I didn't see anybody with a 400 2.8 TC.
Yeah,
So it's
it's
all
only
adapted.
been out for a few months, so.
Right, and they're hard to get. But I did a couple of them had 100s, 120s to 300s, which is like the ultimate sports lens.
Yeah.
If it wasn't so damn heavy and $10,000
It's
and
an
only
expensive,
available on
heavy
Nikon.
lens. Yes.
All right, Stephen, we should wrap this up. It's getting on to it's a little extra longer here.
Yep.
And I got to
Lot to catch
pack.
up
I got to
on.
leave in like 25, 30 minutes to go back to the stadium and be disappointed that it won't be a clincher. I just wanted to run around the field and be
I
in
know,
the
that
background
would
of the
be
videos.
so cool.
In the Phillies videos for like history when they're playing it back 10,
And just
20
the fact that's your
years from
hometown
now.
team, man.
I know.
Being
So I'll
on
be
the
watching
field
on TV.
and when they won the World Series at home. Ugh.
I mean, there's no guarantee
That's
that
a
they'll win.
bummer.
I mean, they weren't supposed to go this far, but now that they're here, you want to see them win.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
But you know how much tickets would have been today if it was a potential clinching game? I mean, you're talking $5,000 for $5 to $10,000 for better seats and $2,000, $1,000 upstairs in the shitty seats. Even though there's not really that many bad seats in that stadium.
Yeah.
You can see from anywhere. But this is going to be the last game of the year at Citizens Bank Ballpark, regardless. And
Oh, yeah.
I got to shoot every playoff game, and it's been a great year for having access, and hopefully I can redo the access next year. And it's been awesome to shoot playoffs. It's been fun.
Very cool.
So why don't we wrap it up here? This is episode, which I didn't even say at the beginning, 23. You can do whatever hashtag you want. I've just been focused on doing the games, and so I'll just say this, like, I do the game, I come to work first, and then I leave around 2:30, 3 o'clock to go to the game, and I'm 5 hours early at that point because 6, 7, 8. The games are at 8 o'clock. Then the game ends around midnight. Then I have to wait till traffic leaves. And I get home around 1. And if there's after parties, I'll stay and do the after party. I hang out with everybody at the after parties. And there should hopefully be one tonight for the press to hang out. That would be nice. But they're long. They're really long days. Doing fro work and then showing up 5 hours early, and then the game's 4.5 hours.
And you still have to edit the photos from the night before usually, too.
Yeah, I haven't edited last night's because
I don't think you even had a chance.
I'm not going to edit them because they sucked.
Oh, okay.
They didn't have a hit. What the fuck was I supposed to shoot? I did shoot the ending with the Astros celebrating on the mound.
Schwarber hit was that
It was a
fair
foul ball.
or foul?
It was a foul ball. It was flat out a foul ball. I couldn't see from where I was because of where I was shooting, but someone said to me they felt like, and I'll just finish this up, that, Major League Baseball wants this to go to 7. That was fair. And I'm like, first off, of course Major League Baseball wants to go to game 7 because they make more money. The more games there are, the more ads they sell, the more money they make. But no, the umpires are not biased towards anyone, and no, they don't care who wins. And that was a foul ball. I watched the replay today to see what it looked like, and it was clearly foul. It wasn't a fair
said
ball.
the broadcast replay looked fair, or I'm sorry, foul, but then people's video from the field looked fair.
But the umpire is right there on the line, and they made the call emphatically right away, and that's what you do as an umpire. And from the broadcast angle, and I'm sure if they could review it, they would. But I think it was too close to tell. It's just one of those things. Does it clip the corner of the bag, meaning go over the corner? And the answer in my opinion, as a Phillies fan, is no. It did not clip the corner, and it was absolutely a foul ball. Guys, thank you very much for listening to episode number 23. It comes out every Friday. We appreciate this. Hope you enjoy this long episode. Hashtag enjoyed this long episode. See you later. Jared, PolinFrontosPhoto.com. See ya. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.